paraphrase the CEQA regulations or guidelines, the question is posed as whether the EIR has been prepared with a sufficient degree of analysis. Again, it doesn't have to be perfection, but is it sufficient to provide the decision makers with the information that will enable them to essentially make an intelligent decision about the potential environmental consequences? That's sort of all this in a nutshell. Is that information there for you to understand what, if this project or some variation of it were approved, what those consequences would be? It's also important to keep in mind that CEQA and the project approval, again, different tracks, and because of that, a body can certify an EIR because we're talking about the adequacy of the document, but can take different actions on the project. The project could be approved. The project could be required to be modified because of potential impacts disclosed in the CEQA document, or the project could be denied. Denial can include where there are significant unmitigated environmental impacts, and then outside the CEQA process, projects can also be denied if there's discretion, such as a general plan zoning amendment or just general failure to comply with different zoning standards. So again, CEQA process and the project approval process are not one and the same. The CEQA is to inform you as the decision makers about environmental consequences. The project will be assessed on environmental merits, certainly, but then on other things as well can factor into those decisions. With that, I will turn it back over to our Community Development Director, Mr.
Thank you, Don. City staff and the EIR consultant will work with commenting agencies and technical experts to complete responses to comments and necessary additions to changes to the draft EIR and the recirculated draft EIR sections. The general approach to responses will include adding clarifying and supplemental information and analysis and revising the EIR where warranted, which may include an additional recirculation of the draft EIR if necessary. A comprehensive final EIR will be made available for public review 30 days before the Planning Commission meeting, and the scheduling for the Planning Commission meeting and subsequent meetings is dependent upon the number and complexity of the comments received and the time it takes for the comments to be answered. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the City Council, who will then make the final decision about certification of the EIR. Finally, your comments are welcome. And again, here is the email address for submitting your written comments. It's conejocreek.eircomments@cityofcamarillo.org. And those are due before midnight on September 20th, 2014. Mr. Mayor, I'll leave this slide up for the convenience of the public, and that concludes staff's report.
Okay, are there any questions from the planning commissioners of staff at this point? I'll get to the council in just a minute. Anybody from the planning commission like to have? None. Okay. Council members, Mrs. McDonald, did you have a question?
Have one clarifying question. It was my understanding that comments made tonight would be entered into the record and would be become part of the answers to comments. You now said that they have to be written, so tonight's are not considered? That's...
According to Rincon, they will respond to statements made, and I apologize if there's confusion about that, but I was really trying to encourage the public, though, it's better if they also submitted a written comment, because that's what goes into the document, so we can ensure the accuracy of it. Thank you.
But what's said tonight will go on the record?
Yes. Comments are always part of the record, but the written responses are what we're trying to push.
Thank you.
Any other comment, Mrs. Morgan?
Yes. There you go. We're talking about a water problem right now, and with the lake that's going to be in this project, how will that be impacted by water? Where will the water be coming from, and so on? Who's answering that? Who presented? There you are. Did you consider that water project there and how it will be impacted by what's going on now in the state of California?
Yeah, we considered that as an issue. I think the applicant can provide a more detailed response to exactly how the lake is filled, but my understanding is that it's primarily a combination of runoff from the project site would feed the lake, and then also at some point either recycled water or potable water would be used to fill a portion of the lake as well. Again, the details regarding filling of the lake, not filling of the lake will be provided by the applicant's team, but the supply of water, if any potable or recycled water would be used to fill the lake, was considered as an issue as part of the project EIR.
I just hate to see it empty. That's why I'm asking that question.
Any other questions from any other council members?
I have a question.
Mr. Little?
Yes, could I ask the Rincon? Yeah. Early on, there was a comment. I don't know whether who made it, but it was in the slides about there was proposed to be, as a general description of the project, 2,500 units on approximately 300 acres of land. In your opinion, is that a high density level, just in gross numbers?
In my opinion, it's moderate. High density to me is 18 units per acre. I think this generally runs between, correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, between 3 units per acre up to 8 units per acre, with some 18. So there is some multifamily. So there's a range. Obviously, the higher end up to 18 units per acre, in my opinion, is a higher density product. The lower side of it is more of a moderate density residential product. Bob may have some other insights because each city, frankly, considers this issue a little bit differently.
Okay.
Without going into great detail, because we do have a lot of time constraints this evening, the specific plan shows low, medium, and low, medium, 5, 10.
Yeah, I understand there's different levels of residential proposed throughout the project, but I'm just talking about gross amounts and whether 2,500 homes on 300 acres of property, which is what was described.
Yeah, that's just over 8 units per acre density. If you
Do you know how that compares with Village in the Park?
they have about 1,140 units on that property. Again, they have similar ones, and that's about half the size. So it's very comparable. Maybe this is even less, a little bit less dense, if you include the lakes and such as part of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Nope.
No. Okay, thank you. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping before I open the public hearing. I'm going to call a recess around 9 o'clock just to give everybody kind of a seventh inning stretch just for 10 minutes so, and we're going to get right back at it about, I'm going to call it at about 9 o'clock here. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. This is an advertised public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask the applicant, would you like to come forward? Mr. Hargrave, you have a...
Good evening. I notice the shot clock is set, so that answers my first question. Mayor Kildee, members of the City Council and Planning Commission, I'm Dennis Hardgrave of Development Planning Services. We're a Camarillo-based firm. We've been in private practice land planning in the county for over 30 years and have been involved, as you know, in a number of projects in the past with the city. I'm here tonight, as I have been for the last 9 years, representing the owners of the Conejo Creek Specific Plan area. You've had a very thorough presentation tonight, and so I won't repeat any of that. I do want to make clear that to the audience that these owners are bearing the full cost of the EIR that's being prepared independently by the city and the city's EIR consultants. Over the past 7 years, the owners have worked with staff on both the general plan amendment and the EIR preparation. To date, well over $750,000 has been spent on the EIR and the technical consultants in order to provide a very thorough document for your future review. A clarification that's asked quite often is, who are these people? These people are not developers, but they are very long-term landowners who want to make even longer long-range plans for their land that's within the city's curb boundary. The majority of this property has been in the same family's ownership for nearly 70 years. The 5 owners are committed to this EIR public process, and we're here tonight to hear public comment on the recirculated sections of the draft EIR. The owners will continue to work closely with city staff and all agencies to obtain fair, balanced, and thorough documentation so that you have a complete and adequate document to make EIR decisions on and ultimately certify. Only after the EIR is certified will any project be considered. All of the property owners understand that as they move forward. Tonight, I'd like to point out several key issues from the recirculated EIR as has been suggested tonight. First of all, traffic. This project proposes to be the first project in Camarillo history to provide improvements to the US 101 main line. Table 4.15-8 of the EIR shows that currently the 3-lane freeway northbound in the evening operates at level of service F from Lewis to Las Posas, and there's not anyone in this room who wouldn't agree with that statement. Table 4.15-8 also shows, as Rincon pointed out, that if the 4th lane were added, that same segment would operate at level of service D today. Other segments would operate at level of service C, which is what Rincon indicated in their presentation. The simple fact is that adding 30% more roadway capacity will provide relief to the existing problem. We all know that traffic is bad on the 101. It's regional, it's statewide, and it goes far beyond the limits of our city, and no one has a funding plan to improve it in Ventura County. This project offers that, and it's absolutely unique in that situation compared to anything that's ever been proposed in this county. The EIR shows that by fixing the problem on 101 northbound in Camarillo, the public benefit to quality of life, air quality, and movement of people and goods would be substantial. I've spoken in the last several days to Darren Kettle of VCTC, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, and understand that the recently approved Caltrans project study report and VCTC document for US 101 through Ventura County actually call for this 4th lane to be a high occupancy vehicle lane. It's our HOV lane. That's the proposal that they have. The owners are committed to work with the city, VCTC, and the state to provide the desired lane type consistent with both VCTC and community goals and Caltrans requirements going into the future. Second point has to do with noise in Naval Base Ventura County. Figure 4.11-2 of the EIR shows that the Naval Base outer CNAL noise contour, that's the 60 decibel or CNAL noise contour, does not cover the Conejo Creek site. Those noise contours do cover a portion of the Village at the Park, and as an HOA board member, I can tell you that it has not been an issue ever raised to our board by residents of Village at the Park. The Conejo Creek final EIR will have all Navy comments and EIR recommended mitigations related to noise and the military influence area, which has been identified to cover the Ador Dairy portion of the specific plan area. Thirdly, loss of agriculture. The EIR provides an updated and incredibly exhaustive analysis of the loss of ag land and also the status of Ventura County ag land. Page 4.2-11 states that the city curb line exists to make sure that SOAR protected farmland is not prematurely or unnecessarily converted to other uses. This land is within curb, it is not within SOAR, and would only be converted years in the future if all of the mitigations that will be in this EIR were provided for if you approve a project at some time in the future. This is a long-range plan for the years 2020 to 2030 and beyond. It is long-range general planning for the city. Further, the EIR proposes some, I'd say, unprecedented mitigations to promote local ag industry and healthy, locally sourced foods, including the ability to have ag food processing within the industrial areas of the specific plan, which are otherwise almost impossible to permit now in Ventura County unincorporated areas because of the regulations related to all of the factors going into development on any farmland under SOAR. On historical resources, it was pointed out that the EIR now recognizes that the major buildings on the individual farms will be incorporated into the project plans. The majority already were. We've now taken that project-wide and said they all will be. The Ador Dairy sites offer locations to promote agritourism in an innovative setting and also to serve as an educational hub. Additionally, the park that's proposed in the south end of the dairy provides other buildings that would be preserved and would be a launching point or a kickoff point for outdoor school and educational activities. We have neither of those resources within the city right now. Our kids go out of town to find out anything about either of those activities. We have no comparable facilities. Two other comments I'm sure you'll hear talked about among many others tonight will be the bypass channel easements, first of all. We continue to work closely with the owners of the off-site bypass channel property. I spoke with them today. As the EIR states, an easement for the bypass channel must be obtained ultimately. That will occur prior to any plan approval. The last issue, water use, and it just came up a moment ago. This project uses recycled water for everything except indoor water use inside homes. The question specifically asked by Councilmember Morgan about the lakes will be all filled with recycled water, and so there won't be potable water demands placed on that. And in fact, the project will not impact drinking water supplies available anywhere to existing users. Further, no new state water or no new imported water will be used on this project. It will all be local water. Primarily, as it relates to the recycled water issue, the recycled water issue is, most people don't know this, but those farms are all now farmed on recycled water. And so the recycled water allocations that have been going to those farms, which are basically, to put it politely, are primarily coming from waste treatment plants, will continue to be applied in the same rates or lesser rates to the land after it's converted. So with that, I'm here to listen, continue working with staff on the EIR, and thank you for this opportunity. And I'll answer any questions you have either now or at the end of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrave. Okay, now we're going to get to the public comments. Again, I'd appreciate it if everybody would fill out a blue card, and after you make your comments, if you leave, if you could let the gentleman up there know. There probably is some people in the foyer that would like to have a seat here as well, if you're so inclined, if you let the two gentlemen up there. I do not have any of the blue cards yet, but I know they're coming. All right, here we go. Okay. And everybody, again, if we could keep the comments to 3 minutes, I'd really appreciate it here. And what I'm going to do is call 3 people up at a time, and you're welcome to line up there so we can have an opportunity to hear everybody comment. Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, we do have a clock here, and it starts at 3 minutes, and you're going to hear a beep on every minute. So at 2 minutes, you'll hear another beep. At 1 minute, you'll hear another beep until you hear the final beep, which will be your 3-minute allocation here. So I do not have these in any particular order. So what I'm going to do is the first one is, I believe, Ian Dunning. Tad Doherty is going to be on deck, and Mike Mishler will be in the hole. So the first is Ian Dunning. Is Ian here tonight? Welcome, Ian. And everybody, the microphone, you really need to get really, really close to it so we can hear you. So that would be really helpful, too. So again, Ian, 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to express my opinion that the planned development project that we just talked about should not really go forward. In my opinion, our community is a near-perfect mix of suburban paradise nestled between the beauty of farm fields, open space, and agriculture. But in recent years, it seems that we've been seeing more and more concrete and pavement and buildings instead of crops and fields, crops being grown. One of my high school teachers once told me, we have some of the best farmland on planet Earth, and we're building shopping malls over it. It's been 10 years since, it's been about 10 years since he said that, and although I wish I remember what else he taught me, his words have stuck with me ever since. I'm probably the youngest person speaking here tonight, so I can't really attest to how much the city has changed in the 50 years since it was founded. But I can still remember when Upland was a bunch of lemon trees, and now those are houses. And I'm sure all of us remember how The strawberry fields behind the Camarillo Library were strawberry fields, and now it's dirt that's going to be built into a school. And I just can't help but wonder, when is it, like, how far are we going to go? Like, when is it going to stop? I don't want to have to drive through Camarillo 30 or 40 or 50 years from now with my kids and tell them how there used to be lots of farmland and open spaces where there are only houses and buildings there now. And that, along with shopping malls that are indistinguishable from ones in every other city around us. I don't want to see this place become Ventura or Oxnard or Orange County. It's a fact of life that growth and development is inevitable in any community, but there's a difference between, say, public libraries and schools and businesses and houses and things like that. Excuse me. Our city's motto is "The people are the city," and everybody I've talked to, from my family, friends, coworkers, and customers at the supermarket where I work, is completely against this development. And I've yet to see a single letter in the newspapers from people who want to see this go forward. And it seems reasonable to assume that most people in the city really don't want this to go forward. And we don't want more traffic, more noise, more urban sprawl, and more urban growth. Camarillo is a gem, and we want to keep it that way. And so I think in the long run, the best way to mitigate any damage and protect the environment is to leave it alone and not bulldoze it. So I just think we have a beautiful city here, and I don't want to see it go down the path of urban sprawl. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Ian. Next is a Tad Doherty. Please, no. Hey, did you remember what I said? I mean it. I mean it. If I hear it again, I'm going to call a recess here. I mean that. Don't push my buttons here tonight. There's no outward sign of anything. We want everybody to have an opportunity to be heard and spoken. So please, please leave your comments to yourself. This is really important. Okay, Mr. Tad Doherty, would you please proceed?
Good evening, council members and commissioners. While this hearing is a necessary part of the CEQA process in considering this proposed project, it all seems to be pretty much an exercise in futility to me. This is kind of like the fog of war. The EIR, as we've all heard, will be approved, and we know that's how it works. It gets certified, it's just a report. But the bigger issue is when this plan goes eventually before the City Council for approval, then no matter what the EIR may reveal in terms of significant impacts, it just takes 3 members of the City Council to subjectively decide in their own minds that the project is beneficial to the community and say that in writing, and then it's all over. It goes forward. And we already know, based on track record, this City Council loves development. Indeed, while I would hope the mayor would keep an open mind and reconsider his position, he's already gone on the record in a TV interview where he has spoken of the Conejo Creek project as, "This is our last big project. And it will be this, and it will be that." And there were no ifs, ands, or if approved or buts in his statement. If some of you do not believe that, you can see and hear it for yourselves. Just Google Kevin Kildee, Mayor, City of Camarillo, -YouTube. You can hear his statement in his own words. Look for the May 15th interview, local edition, Time Warner Cable. His mindset appears pretty clear, but I hope you will keep it open, Mayor. This project is a shame. The land is currently zoned as agriculture. It is not zoned as our last big project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Tad. Next will be Mike Mishner. Barbara Williams will be the next speaker. Andrea Suriano will be on deck. And it will be, let's see, this gentleman, Jim Hensley, will be in the hole. Mr. Mishner, please.
Yeah, my name is Mike Mishler. I'm not here as a board director for the Pleasant Valley Rec and Park, but as a citizen and as a geologist. And I'm here to point out two technical problems with the existing report. The first one has to do with traffic, the traffic model that's presented in the model. Specifically, if you go to intersection 56, which is Santa Rosa Road and Adolfo Road, in the report, it shows 3 traffic lanes going north out of the intersection, going straight ahead with full lanes of traffic. As you look at the data, anybody who lives in Camarillo and goes through the intersection, all of us here, know that if you're on Santa Rosa Road, as soon as you go north toward Leecher Village on that road, the third lane, about 100 feet down the road, 50 to 100 feet, disappears. And the cars are turning into the shopping center or trying to merge. And that's, you can't, in the model, they're putting a full load of traffic down that lane as if you have 10 miles of full capacity up ahead. So the model is incorrect at that point. And even with that, that intersection comes out at a D, and with the correction, I'm sure it was going to go down to an E or an F. But so the first correction has to be that. Second, there's no traffic. They don't have any of the high school kids going through the intersection, pushing those buttons and walking across. It's only cars going through those intersections, no pedestrians. So they need to go back and figure in the pedestrian traffic also in that model. So those are the 2 points on the traffic side. The next point is the geology one, which I'm obviously a geologist and I like to talk about geology, but on the very, very east end of this project, over by Camarillo Springs, there's an old oil field called the Canal Oil Field. And it was originally built, started in 1892, and pretty much abandoned by 1940s and 50s. But what the geologists know about that field is, which makes it very distinguishing across the entire United States, it's the shallowest oil field ever produced in the United States. Some of those wells were producing oil from only 20 feet below the surface. So that well, it didn't never produce very much, about 50,000 barrels, maybe more or less. But there were oil seeps around there. That's how Union Oil found the original field. There was the deeper well shows hydrocarbons still coming up. That's an active hydrocarbon recharge area. It's on the east end. Nowhere in the report do they even talk about this. And the issue is you don't want to put development in and then have a La Brea tar pit show up in your backyard. So, or gas fumes coming up into the buildings like they do in Los Angeles. So that needs to be included as part of the study, which is completely void of any of that type of stuff. So, so I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mishler. Next is Barbara Williams. Barbara here? There she is.
The people are the city. The safety and well-being of the citizens of Camarillo should be paramount in your minds when deciding the Conejo Creek development. We expect you to consider our health and safety over everything. You owe it to us. I spent 38 years in the Mission Oaks area before moving to a smaller home in Camarillo Springs in April 2013 because my husband Tom was killed on southbound US 101 just east of the Pleasant Valley Santa Rosa Road interchange. Tom was killed as a result of road rage between 2 other drivers. Our accident expert said the southbound on-ramp coming from the Santa Rosa Road direction contained a very steep curve that most likely would not be approved today. We have all heard that US 101 in our area received an F rating. Please consider traffic when making your decision. Approved projects in Camarillo, Oxnard, and the Conejo Creek development will be taxing US 101 even more. No plans are being made to make improvements to the Pleasant Valley, Santa Rosa, and Camarillo Springs interchanges, the ones closest to the proposed development. I don't want others to have to experience the grief and pain my family suffered over a needless accident on US 101 due to the increased traffic the Conejo Creek development will cause. Please consider the impact to our water resources. Camarillo has had to buy water from other sources, and there is no spare water. We are experiencing a water shortage that will not be overcome for quite a long time. Water from an abandoned well at Adair Farms is unreasonable, considering saltwater encroachment in the Oxnard Plain. I'm very concerned over my health and that of my neighbors in Camarillo Springs. The prevailing winds are from the west. The ERR indicated there's residual DDT in the farmland for the development. While the developers indicate they will keep the dust down by spraying water, my experience in Mission Oaks area is no matter how much you spray the ground, there will be dust everywhere, including Camarillo Springs. I talked with a board member of the Parkinson's Foundation. She told me that while the primary cause of Parkinson's is from inheriting the disease, the risk of getting Parkinson's is significantly increased by exposure to DDT. DDT was banned in 1972 and is still found in the soil. My sister lived on Lantana Street, just south of Las Posas. She died in 1985 due to cancer. Later, the Camarillo Daily News pointed out a cancer cluster in the area where my sister lived. It was suspected it was due to the use of pesticides when that area was farmland. Don't let this happen again. While the owners of the farmland have a right to sell their property, the city does not have to support rezoning to allow building homes, and the city does not have to approve the development. You are required to protect our health and ensure the city is a safe place to live. The traffic in and near the proposed development should concern you. Our precious water resources should concern you. The DDT and residual pesticides in the soil should concern you. That the residents of Camarillo Springs fear for their health and well-being should concern you. I urge you to vote no on the Conejo Creek development.
Thank you for your comments, Barbara. Next is Andrea Soriano. Andrea? And after that will be Jim Hensley, as Jim wants to get ready. Andrea?
Thank you. Thank you. Recycled water or not, my question is why would the City Council and Planning Commission approve this project when we may not have enough water to sustain the current residents of our community? Since the initial draft EIR was prepared in 2012, and as others have acknowledged here tonight, the knowledge and understanding of the water situation in California has dramatically changed. Now, 2 years later, 2 years after the draft EIR, we are in the third year of a drought. Experts indicate that there is no measurable rain forecast in the near future, and the experts are now realizing the extent to which we have overpumped our aquifers. The latest information I found regarding the source of water for this project is the Ador well. In a 2012 comment letter to the initial draft EIR, Joe Willingham of Camarosa wrote that the water supply for the project was dependent on, quote, the rehabilitation and or reconstruction of the Ador well for increased production of local supply. The Ador well taps into and would pump from the Pleasant Valley Aquifer, which serves many existing residents in our Camarillo community. The Pleasant Valley Aquifer lies above the deeper Fox Canyon Aquifer. Things have changed dramatically since 2012. The Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency issued Emergency Ordinance E, which requires 10%, 15%, and 20% stepped reductions in pumping from the aquifer through 2016. Who knows what restrictions will be placed after that? It's important to note that aquifer depletion is essentially permanent. Quoting from a National Geographic article, aquifers contain ancient water locked in the earth by changes in geology thousands or millions of years ago. These aquifers typically cannot recharge once this fossil water is gone. It is gone forever, potentially changing how and where we can live and grow food, among other things. With our aquifers currently overdrafted, we face the risk of seawater intrusion, which will contaminate our fresh water supplies. My question, again, why should our City Council and Planning Commission commit to a project that will forever increase the extraction of water from our local Pleasant Valley aquifer in order to supply an additional 2,500 residences, a man-made lake, a school, over 1 million feet of commercial industrial space, and 44 acres of park? This project does not offer a benefit to the current residents of our community. It will put greater and unsustainable demand on our water supply and aquifers and puts our community at greater long-term risk. I urge the City Council not to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next is Jim Hensley. Is Jim here? Oh, there you are, Jim. Okay. And after that will be Bob Rust, Richard, I believe, Diamond, and Dan Matthews.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, distinguished council people, and commissioners, staff, and probably the best thing is all the people that showed up here tonight. This is absolutely fantastic to see a community stand up for something like this. I'm a retired military environmental activist. I came here to oppose the Conejo Creek development at the base of the Conejo Pass. For the record, my name is Jim Hensley. I own a home on the GI Bill in Port Hueneme, a seniors village. And every time I hear a military airplane go by, I kind of get a warm, fuzzy feeling in my tummy. It's a good sound to me. But if you put F-35s over that Conejo Creek project with all those homes, they're a lot louder, and people who aren't in the military may not appreciate it. Now, we all know that when you get a base that's encroached by too many people, there's all kinds of complaints. And when the BRAC time comes around, they start closing the base down. If they close Point Magoo, they're going to then turn, it's all part of Port Hueneme and the islands out there. We're going to lose everything here. Now, granted, there's probably some developers that love to have that property for development. But let's stick with the military, okay? As I see it, there's kind of two issues here. One, the developers and the homeowners. Now, they want to make money, obviously. And then there's people like me and all the other folks that are here. We want to kind of keep some sensible type of control. And it's obvious that we need to do that because we're not just looking at our lifetime, because we're not going to last much longer. It's going to be out 50, 100, 200, 400 years from now. And it's time that we start thinking in the future. We live and care about our environment. The project is going to use too much water, and it's got to stop. The people have come, we have spoken. Please, please consider, vote no on this. I know money talks, and it isn't everything. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Bob Rust. And after that will be, I believe, a Richard Diamond. Okay, thank you. And then it'll be Dan Matthews. So, Bob, proceed, please.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Council members, I've lived in Camarillo all my life. If my grandkids are going to live to see a poster like the one behind you that says Happy Camarillo 50 years, that says maybe 100 years, I think we're talking about traffic, which is yucky. It'll get yuckier. We're talking about using arable land, which we're running out of. But I think our Easter Island factor is water. There isn't enough water to ask for enough water for another 7,500 people. It just isn't going to work. And I really urge you to vote no on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next is Richard, I believe it's Diamond. I hope I got your last name right, Richard. Thank you. Good evening. If you could really put that microphone down there, Richard, I appreciate it. Thank you.
My wife and I lived in Los Angeles, and 16 years ago I moved to Camarillo. When we would hit Sunset Boulevard and have to go 2.5 miles to the 405 freeway, it would take us a half an hour. 2.5 miles in the morning on Sunset Boulevard for a half an hour. I don't want you folks to turn Camarillo into another Los Angeles. I think that the traffic will be a burden that can't be solved. I have friends that I invite to come and visit me in Camarillo. Some of them come to the Camarillo discount malls, and they tell me, we're not going to fight that traffic. We're not coming to Camarillo. I know that a good portion of the revenues that Camarillo relies on for their subsistence and their progress comes from the discount malls. If you block traffic and you turn the Conejo Grade into a parking lot, you're going to suffer in your revenues from the discount malls because people will not go there. There are other malls, and people will go there. I can tell you also that I came here this evening not really prepared to speak, but when I drove by, I saw a huge sign in front of your building, Mr. Mayor. You know what that building said? It said, "Be water wise."
It's there.
I think, sir, and council people, that sign applies not just to the people in this room, but applies to you. We are in a drought situation. There is not enough water for the existing residents. I have pulled out vegetation all over my property to save water. And if this program requires a reallocation of water, everybody's going to suffer. And I'm afraid that someday you're going to go in to take a shower and you're going to turn the tap and nothing's going to come out. And whether or not that happens is going to depend significantly on what you people do about this project. I am against it, not on a knee-jerk basis, but on a careful consideration. I do not want the Conejo Grade to become a parking lot. And on the weekends and in the summertime, it is almost that. With the addition of 5,000 cars a day, and perhaps more for the businesses that we're going to include, and I don't know the demographics, you are jeopardizing the city of Camarillo. Don't turn it into another Los Angeles, please.
Thank you, Richard. Next is Dan Matthews. After that will be a Barbara Liebert. After Barbara, there will be an Ernest Schultz, I believe. After that will be Don Hollingsworth. Dan?
Good evening. My name is Dan Matthews. I'm a realtor in Camarillo, and I've been selling houses here for the last 15 years. We currently have 175 single-family homes available in Camarillo. To dump 2,600 new properties into that market does not offer any benefit to the homeowners of Camarillo that are in a position to sell their homes. For me to tell new people moving into the area that we're going to have more traffic, we're going to have more water restrictions, and we're going to have a new community built on the other side that is currently farmland is not an advantage for us as business people. When we had the Sterling Hills Military Hospital that was going to be for criminals, the prices in Las Posas Estates dropped significantly at the time. There was community reaction to it, and finally it was canceled. We'd like to see a representative government, as we have here, be actually representative of the people. I personally would like to see an initiative put on a ballot and have the people decide this project, not the people that we have voted in to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Dan. Next will be a Barbara Liebert.
Dan?
Barbara Liebert.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and commissioners. I'm just here as a resident, a long time, 45-year resident. I take a look at, as a former realtor, I have to say, but I take a look at the overall development of Camarillo, and we're really addressing the suburbanization of the city of Camarillo. And the question is, what is the real best use of the land and the space surrounding our current boundaries? I know there's been an awful lot of work done by a very fine group. I can understand why the sellers are interested in selling, and I understand why the city wants to remain a beautiful city, but see it develop. But at the same time, I don't think that this is the last EIR report, even if it's final. My question is the city prepared to address additional services and infrastructure costs that the city and its current property owners may have to pay to accommodate this new project? Or from whence will the funding come for additional infrastructure and needs of the community? If you were to take what the current property owner tax is on that entire project, I don't know what it is today, but if you were to take the new development, if approved and completed and approved, I don't know if that's going to generate property taxes to accommodate additional spending and infrastructure and services. What is the city and the state going to gain from it, as opposed to what the community is looking forward to? I don't want it to become Phoenix West. I call it the Pac-Man Crunch, but at the same time, I do know that there are sufficient reasons for some people wanting to go through with it, but I'd ask you to really take a more sincere look and not just follow the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next is Ernest, I believe Schultz. Is Ernest here? Correct. Thank you. You could speak into that, Ernest. Thank you.
You bet. I came to Simi Valley in 1962. It was a small town. It was filled with orange fields and walnut groves. There are none anymore. There are just houses throughout and small parks. The population in that era grew between 9,000 and 10,000 per year while I was there. Simi now is made up of many houses with a large police force and a fire department to support those people, all through taxes. I believe Camarillo is heading in that direction. And I hope you would stop this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ernest. Next is Don Hollingsworth. After Don, I believe, will be a Jill Gardner, I believe. After Jill, I believe Robert Kelly. And after Robert will be Carol Karras, I believe. So, Don?
Okay, I'll try to bring up a couple points and try to ignore the intimidator. The expansion of the university, they're forecasting 19,000 students, and I guarantee you they'll all have a car. Springville, how many more cars are coming from there? I think you should publish how many housing units you've already approved that haven't been built yet. It's a big number, I'm sure. The 101 Shopping Center coming along. Oxnard's planning wall-to-wall clear to the river. And this business about the developer putting in another lane on the freeway is nonsense. The developer at Springville, they've already stiffed the Park District, and you're having problems with the people in Springville with the rent thing. You better get some lawyers. As far as the water, about filling the lake, Mike, I believe there's been lawsuits over the years about the farmers upstream stealing the water. All that water, except when it rains, comes from Thousand Oaks sewer plant. So I don't know where they're going to get the water to fill the lake when the farmers can't get what they want now. The loss of the farmland. The other thing, the noise that the base creates has been touched on, but what about the encroachment on the base? They're the largest employee in Ventura County. Many of those live in the city of Camarillo. I'm surprised they haven't better organized in opposition to this project. The election is coming up, and apparently, if I heard correctly, one of the council people have already committed they're going to go for the project. I think everyone presently on the council and the people running should state their position on this project. There's no question, I think, in anybody's mind that's here tonight, the majority of the people disapprove of this. I don't think we should have any of this nonsense. You won't do that because all the facts aren't in. Any of the things, the traffic, the water, any of those one item's enough to not approve this project. I'll just read from a quote that was in the newspaper.
Thank you, Don. I'm sorry. I have to adhere to the 3 minutes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
The will of the people and common sense be damned.
Thank you. Next, I believe, is a Jill. I think it's Gardner. I'm not sure if I got her last name right. I'm sorry? There she is? Okay. There you are. Okay, Jill.
After her.
Okay. Yeah, is that right, Jill? Is that your last name?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jill Gardner. Okay, I'm Jill Gardner, and I would like to point out they had spoken earlier about there's going to be a unique way that's never been done before to handle the traffic and all that, and to put in the lane on the freeway, and I would definitely think that we would need to know more about that because my understanding is the city council and or the developers don't put in the roadways. So that wouldn't necessarily be in their purview. I could be wrong about that. So I think probably the best thing to do, if they're willing to put in this new lane, why don't they do it before they ever have any kind of project going on over there? We'll see how the traffic goes. Then we can readdress it. And again, to touch on the thing, they're currently, for anybody who's not aware, that's in the room, you know, the Springville development is smaller by far than what they're planning on putting in at the CCD. And so far already, they're having an issue, the city of Camarillo, with the developers over the rents over there for the low-income units. Also, on that project that's supposed to go in on the 3M property, same thing. They're already having a dispute on the how many low-income units there are going to be. So I just think, like most everybody in the room, I'm very much against this project for now and for the future of Camarillo.
Thank you, Jill. Next will be Robert Kelly. After Robert, I believe Carol Karras, and after Carol will be, I believe, a Harold Hyman. Robert?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just some of you may know me. I'm the present chair of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, and I also am here as a private citizen, and in no way, shape, or form do I speak for any of the other board members of the district. The recirculated EIR, I've looked at it, and it's really not that bad of a document. It pretty much tells you everything that you need to know. It tells you that in just a few years, if the EIR is confirmed and the project goes through, that we will increase the population in this city by 10%, possibly even as high as 11 or 12% over a very few years. That in and of itself is a reason not to do it, because it's impossible to contemplate what will happen when you pack that many people into that area there. The traffic, the extra lane, all of these things, with the build-out in Oxnard that is going at a rapid pace, and believe me, I understand we shouldn't let what Oxnard, what they do, determine what we do, but in fact it's coming, it's already in the pipeline. You put in an extra lane, it's still going to back up all the way from Oxnard. You're going to end up with gridlock from the grade all the way to Oxnard. It's almost there right now. So just imagine what that would be like with 7,500 more people. We don't know what they're going to do with the commercial. I don't know what kind of businesses are going to be in there. Hopefully they would provide jobs for local people in the community, but they'll also involve a lot of congestion. What will end up happening is the same thing as the gentleman mentioned in West LA, is that it'll gridlock for a long period of time on the 101, and then people will start using the side streets. And then they'll be packed. We already see Pleasant Valley Road now in the evening, jammed. Can't get through there. Yes, maybe we could change the way the lights are regulated out there, and that might help, but it's already jammed. Everyone will spill off just like they do in LA, just like I used to do when I would have to go to a distant courthouse somewhere, always looking for the side streets. That's what will happen. So these people are going to end up on your city streets. A lot of the comments tonight were somewhat outside the scope, but I think that the impression that I draw is that most of the people here are against that project. I haven't heard them all yet, so I'll reserve my judgment. But I think that we may just want to take yes for an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And next is Carol. After her will be Harold, I believe, Hyman. After Harold will be a Jay, I believe it's Freed, and after Jay will be a Nancy Mothy. So, Carol?
Hi. My name is Carol Karras, and I've lived in Camarillo for 44 of its 50 years of being a city. I oppose the Caneo Creek specific plan because the quality of life for our community is now at a tipping point. Our freeway and roads are congested all the time, and we have yet to realize the full impact of traffic from the approved developments of Springville. Our ability to provide water for our existing households and businesses is tenuous, and the groundwater in our aquifer is dangerously dropping. Our green belts of farmland, once a defining feature of our city, are disappearing. Once our open space is gone, we will have sacrificed precious farmland, increased pollution, congested our roads, turning them into a freeway like the 405, and we will have a less healthy way of life. This is not the blueprint I want for the next 50 years of the city of Camarillo.
Thank you, Carol. Next is Harold. Am I right, Harold? Is it Hyman?
Yes.
Thank
you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm going to get right to it because of the time, and we've been sitting a long, long time. And I know you're going to have a break soon, and we all appreciate that. The recirculated draft, Chapter 2.0, the project setting, pages 2.3 and pages 4.5 shows existing ADT on Lewis Road that's existing today are 11,000 daily car trips. With the project, there will be 31,000 daily car trips on Lewis Road. On Pleasant Valley Road, the existing value right now on Pleasant Valley Road is 21,000 daily car trips, with a projection with the project to go to 38,000 daily car trips. On Camarillo Springs Road, the existing value with the project right now is just 5,000 daily car trips. With the project, 9,000 car trips. And this is all without thinking about or talking to the university, our wonderful Channel Islands State University. I had a conversation with the university architect a couple of weeks ago, minimal conversation with him, according to him, regarding traffic. 19,000 students that are going to grow, and I think it's 13 years, but let me read this for you. The Camarillo campus grew 14%. From 5,800 to up to 5,800. 2 years ago, they just had about 3,200. They plan to grow to 19,000 students. 19,000 students? How many additional staff and faculty will they have? How will they get there? I do not want my grandchildren taking Protero Road, the back road, to go to and from that university. I want to thank the City Council and the Planning Commission to giving us the opportunity to speak. And I want to thank the people from Stop Conejo Creek, Save Our Springs, Country Club Village, Leisure Village, Mission Oaks, and Woodside Greens. We've all been meeting in a very organized, disciplined way, and we will continue to try to inform you. And let's practice democracy.
Thank you, Harold.
Listen
I appreciate
to the
it.
people of
Okay,
Camarillo.
next will be Jay, I believe it's Freed. Is Jay here? After that will be Nancy Mothy, and then Stuart, I believe it's Krieger, and after Stuart will be a Bill Johnson. Okay. Jay, did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, council members, commissioners. I want to thank everyone, all the citizens that showed up here to show their support, to back this effort. I'm pretty sure most of the people in this room are against this effort. Personally, I see no value in this project at all to myself or my family. The reason why I bought a home here in Camarillo is for the open land. And it's been my experience, the problems we've been having with the 101 Thruway based on this project, we're not going to have, it's not going to improve. It's only going to get worse. So I'm definitely against this project. I hope the council votes against it. And Again, I appreciate all the support here. I think I haven't, let me say one thing, I haven't met one person in favor of this project. I'm sure there are people. I'm sure the people that want to sell the property out there, the people that want to develop it. I'm all for progress. I don't want to impede progress, but at the same point in time, again, I don't see any value in having more shopping in this area, any more housing in this area. I see the problems we're already starting to have with Springville, and it doesn't look good. So I'd like and hope that the council votes against it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Jay. Next is Nancy Mothy. Is Nancy here? Feel free to line up. Stuart Krieger is after her, and Bill Johnson, I believe, will be next. Is Nancy here? Oh, there's Nancy. Okay. Thank you. Again, Nancy, if you could put the... Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, City of Camarillo Council members, City Mayor, Attorney, Manager, Planning Department of Camarillo. This is regarding the Conejo Creek Development, EIR, SCH 2009111020. I live in Mission Oaks for 22 years. We only have 2 police officers that will police that area. Usually takes about 2 hours for a police officer to come out if we have issues in F Canyon and the walkway along my house. I'm here tonight to present to you all why I oppose the Conejo Creek development near the 101 freeway. You all have bottled water. In Napa Valley, they're handing out bottled water to residents because the wells are drying up. This development will impact all residents and businesses on the east end of Camarillo and bring in more and more traffic to an already high-density road like Pleasant Valley and Santa Rosa Road. This open space is the gateway to Camarillo, looking downward from the Conejo grade, and will tax the 101 freeway from Thousand Oaks to Ventura with more traffic. The on and off ramps that serve that area will also be full of traffic, as we only have 2 on-off ramps. We're in the third year of drought. And why would you even consider this development? Due to our lack of water, I don't understand. There are areas up in Northern California that are running out of water. Our streams, lakes, and aquifers are drying up. And if we do not see any rain for the rest of the year, what is the residents going to do? Residents of Camarillo are being asked to stop watering their lawns. Charlotte Craven made a response to that. Where's all the green lawns? I took my lawn out. I replaced it with drought-resistant plants. What is going to be with the residents of this area? We're going to have 4,500 homes, an industrial park, a school. They all want water. The Conejo Creek property development would drain directly and flow into the Point Mugu Lagoon estuary. That is one of the largest saltwater estuaries in Southern California. Fertilizer lawn threatens every estuary, and that is a protected area. The wetland is a stage to major winter area birds, and 5 of the birds are federally listed endangered and threatened species. The light-footed clapper rail, California least term, snowy plow, California brown pelican, salt marsh bird peak. We live in Camarillo because we love the open space, and we pay high for this. Many of us must travel far to work out of Camarillo because of the lack of jobs. We pay high property taxes, and we vote. Our water district, Camarillo, is asking residents in their bills to please conserve. Who's going to conserve the development?
Thank you, Nancy. I'm sorry, I have 3 minutes. I have to adhere to everyone. Thank you. Next would be Stuart, is it Krieger? Am I pronouncing that right? And on deck will be, I believe it's Bill Johnson. Welcome, Stuart.
Good evening, Council. This Conejo Development Project is to be located directly under the approach for runway 210. Aircraft must land and take off into the wind, and the prevailing onshore wind dictates the direction and runway location. The noise footprint will be at its greatest within 1,000 feet of overpassing your single-family homes. Even though these homes will be well soundproof, they will have outdoor living areas. The first complaint near an airport is always noise. Our government won't fight noise complaints. They will close the airbase. Ventura County will be deprived of 19,000 jobs and $2 billion in annual income. The naval base won't oppose this project because it might be seen as political. How much real benefit does this project bring to our city, as opposed to the loss of the naval base? Regardless what the developer's representative tells you that this won't happen, the pattern is set. Military air bases are closed due to the federal budget or noise complaints. Does this city council want to be responsible for the loss of jobs and $2 billion annual income so we can have 2,500 new dwellings and pave over our priceless farmland? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Next, I believe, is Bill Johnson. After Bill would be Elise Dills. After Elise, I believe it's a Aram Demerjian, and then a Jim Hines. So it's Bill here? Oh, yeah, Bill, there you go. Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
Excuse me, hi. Thanks. My name is Bill Johnson. I've lived in Camarillo for 29 years, and I'm going to get right to it with the pros and cons of this development, of what I feel they are. Number 1 and 2, pros, profits for the developer. Number 2, money for landowners from the sale. That's the only thing I can see are the benefits from this development. Start with the cons. Number 1, increased traffic. The 101 is already bumper to bumper during most days. There is no way to mitigate this. Thousands of homes are planned and approved for the 101 corridor. It will just continue to get worse. One former planning commission member, this was during the Village at the Park development, was quoted as saying, "There's going to be traffic anyway." Well, that's not acceptable. Number 2, loss of prime farmland. This is the double whammy. Most people and less land to grow food. California loses approximately 40,000 acres of farmland per year. That's 40,000 acres, 70 square miles per year of farmland, 60% of which is prime land. That comes from the California government website. Where do you expect our children and grandchildren to get their food in the future if growth continues unabated? Number 3, water. We are in a prolonged drought, and the climate is changing. We are running out of water. This development with this lake will use more than double the water that Egg uses. Building codes call for drainage of runoff water into the creek and ocean, not for percolation into the soil. Our estimate is 2,500 homes at approximately 1,500 square foot of roof space each, with 1 inch of rain equals 2.4 billion gallons of water that runs off into the ocean and is not recharged into the soil. Ag land allows water to recharge the aquifer and produces food. Number 4, schools will need to be built. We will all pay for their staffing and maintenance, even if the developer builds the schools. The new neighborhood's residents will not pay for all of the costs. They will be spread out to all the community. Number 5, additional police, fire, and city personnel will be needed. Any additional tax revenues are not enough to cover the costs of development. If they did, LA would just be like Beverly Hills, greatest place in Southern California. Number 6, per the Navy, this development will encroach on the base and could potentially cause the closure of the base with a loss of tens of thousands of jobs. Growth is not progress. Unlimited growth is a cancer and kills the host, which is the earth. Everything in the universe has limits. Sustainable living is the only answer if we want to continue life on this earth as we know it. This development is of no benefit to the people of this city or the county and is not wanted by the people. Just look around and listen to what everybody's saying. Since the people are the city, you as representatives of the people, not a few landowners and the developer, are obligated to reject this development. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Elise Dills. Is Elise here? Yeah. Again, if you could put that microphone real close to you, Elise, appreciate it. There we go.
Hello, my name is Elise Dills. I live at 498 Deerhurst Avenue, Camarillo, since 1980.
Could you get a little bit closer so that we could all hear you, please? Thanks.
There you go.
The strawberry fields on the west side of the property backing up to Callegas Creek have been replaced by Village at the Park homes. The Conejo Creek project proposes replacing the mature eucalyptus trees in ag land across Pleasant Valley Road on our southern side with 2 to 3 story commercial buildings. I personally do not want this project, but the large scope of the Conejo Creek project is not just a personal NIMBY concern, but has negative effects on the community. The major concern is the loss of valuable and irreplaceable ag land. No longer would the gateway to our city showcase our ag heritage, but reflect urban sprawl similar to San Fernando Valley and Orange County. With urbanization comes traffic. I do not need to bore you with traffic studies and decibel ratings, since most of you have experienced gridlock on our local streets and the 101 freeway. A massive residence and commercial retail project would only make matters worse. The loss of ag land and traffic problems are both significant impacts without mitigation in the EIR. If the Conejo Creek project overwhelms our road infrastructure, what does it do to our municipal water infrastructure? Especially now that it has become more and more significant with the 3-year drought. We have all read national and local newspapers regarding the drought and water shortage. Also, we have all received notices from our local water service to conserve, with warnings of a water rate increase as the need for imported water increases. Camarillo, along with other local cities, is actively pursuing obtaining water from underground tunnels from the Delta. This is a very contentious political issue in Sacramento, as our northern neighbors do not want to share their water with us at their expense. We need to be water wise and further study this issue. I would like to close by quoting some information from the recent Ag Report by Ventura County Agricultural Commissioner Henry Gonzalez regarding our diverse cropland. Mr. Gonzalez states, well, I have to get my glasses for this part. In the next 10 years, we will. Is that it?
Well, you wanted to.
In the next 10 years.
Can you go real fast? I'm sorry.
We lose valuable agricultural land to development. It's slow, it's incremental, but that part of the danger because you don't see it coming. However, we can see it coming. We need to stop Conejo Creek project.
Thank you, Elise.
Thanks.
Next is Aram, I think it's Demerjian. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But after him will be Jim Hines, and then a Lynn Norman, and a Brian, I believe it's Sigi. So if you want to line up, you're more than welcome to. Aram, do you want to?
Good evening.
Okay, that.
I am Aram Demerjian.
Aram, okay.
Even though my English is not that good, I'm here today exceptionally to express my voice. I live in the Leisure Village retirement home on weekends only. The rest of the week, I live in San Fernando Valley. Because the air in San Fernando Valley is polluted, I have developed a chronic sinus congestion. According to my physician, many of her patients have been complaining of similar conditions. Surprisingly, when I am in Camarillo for a short time, my sinus clears up. Because in Camarillo, the air is cleaner. This Conejo Creek project is a disaster for the next generation of this city. Presently, many kids are already affected by the toxic air with respiratory problems. Are you listening to me? You are? Okay. Do you care for your own well-being? For the well-being of your children? As well as for the residents of Camarillo? The first wealth is health, not money.
Thank you very much, Aram. Next is Jim Hines. After Jim's going to be Lynn Norman, and then I believe it's Brian Sagi. So, Jim?
Mayor, members of the Council and Planning Commission, my name is Jim Hines. I represent the organization, the Sierra Club, on issues of concern in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. You have heard and will hear tonight from some really great concerned citizens who will talk to you about the impacts of this project on us humans, deterioration of air quality, the mess on the 101 freeway, and the loss of valuable agricultural land, which not only feeds us locally, but feeds our nation. But I'm here before you tonight to speak to those that cannot be here, those that cannot even speak to you. The draft EIR, as is written, especially in the biological resources section, is nothing but a blueprint for the destruction of the only living wildlife corridor leading in and out of the Santa Monica mountain range. The EIR fails to address the impact of the predator-prey relationship as mountain lions follow deer herds that migrate back and forth between the eastern Los Padres National Forest region, across the Santa Clara River Valley, through the Simi Hills, into various corridors such as the Santa Rosa Valley, and down through the Conejo Creek area where they enter the Santa Monica Mountains. The other wildlife corridors we're working on in the Santa Monica Mountains are dry corridors, which means they basically stay dry during the warm weather months of a normal rainy season. They stay completely now dry during the drought season. The Conejo Creek, thanks to the Thousand Oaks treatment plant, has water year-round. Water is life to all living things on this planet, and wildlife needs that water. This project needs to have the EIR completely rewritten on the biological resources section and address species-by-species concerns of all of the species that use that corridor. Consult with the National Park Service staff on ecological wildlife migration corridors, the State Coastal Conservancy staff, and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy staff on wildlife corridors. The issue of night lighting along the proposed development will hinder wildlife movement. Traffic noise within the proposed project area will impact wildlife. Also needs to be addressed is the use of, in the proposed project, when the homes are being built, if they are, the use of pesticides, herbicides, and rodicides, and that's impact on wildlife corridor. The largest death scenario of mountain lions in the Santa Monica Mountains the last 2 years is the use of rodicides that have caused death and illness to mountain lions in there. So the city has a legacy to follow, and you should follow a legacy that brings a full, adequate environmental impact report on wildlife species back to you for your consideration. And I want you to ultimately make a decision based on the impacts of creating a great wildlife corridor along the Conejo Creek, not destroying it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Lynn Norman. After Lynn will be, I believe, Brian Segui, and then Chris Loft. So, Lynn? Lynn, if you could put that baby down there, you go. Way low, yeah.
Way?
Yeah, just really talk into it. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Norman. I've lived in Camarillo for 13 plus years. My parents bought here in 1977. They were at one of the first villages in Leisure Village. I finally was able to purchase my modest townhome, and I chose Camarillo for very specific reasons. Until I retired, I commuted between Woodland Hills and Camarillo, and it was with great joy that I would come to the bottom of the Conejo Grade and see nothing but agriculture. Sadly, that has already changed. I used to go to Newport Beach when they had old beach houses to rent, and my parents would stay there, and we would see nothing but agriculture on our trip between the San Fernando Valley and Orange County because there were no freeways. I'm that old. San Fernando Valley, I went to most of my elementary school years, and our next-door neighbors grew celery and other crops. There was a chicken ranch right down the street from us. These have all disappeared. These are just distant memories. I don't want the agriculture in this area to be a distant memory. I note your dispute with Springville. I want to reiterate what the other two people said, and I lost a lot of trust in the city council and the planning department when I heard about this. We do not really know the future impact of Springville regarding traffic, water, air pollution, and other factors. So why approve another 2,500 residential units plus industrial and other space near the Conejo Grade? I currently use 2 to 3 units of water per month. I am so frugal. You don't want to know all the ways. We're in a severe drought. So will Cam Rosa and Caliquas be coming to us citizens after you have approved the overbuilding of Camarillo and tell us we're going to start rationing water? I realize we can't expect zero growth or change. However, based on the probable negative impact of water and traffic alone, I feel the proposed Conejo grade project is ludicrous. I do not have much money, I don't have connections, I don't have power other than my vote, and I always vote, but as a retiree, I do have time. I'm going to make a promise to all of you city council members. If any of you vote to approve this plan, I promise to use a lot of time to work against your reelection to another term. What are you thinking? Are you thinking about the approximately 66,000 residents of Camarillo and their future community quality of life? I implore you to listen to the voices of the residents of Camarillo and vote not to approve the Conejo Creek plan.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, I believe, is Brian Segee, Chris Loft, Forrest Frields, I believe, and then it'll be Matt Lorimer. Brian, did I pronounce your last name right?
You did, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right.
Thank you very much.
You're
Good
getting
evening.
better.
My name is Brian Segee. I'm an attorney with Environmental Defense Center. I'm speaking on behalf of our clients at Camarillo Sustainable Growth. And this evening I want to focus on the bypass channel briefly. We've submitted pretty extensive comments on the draft EIR and other letters, and there's more coming, but I just want to focus on the bypass channel tonight. In many respects, the bypass channel is the foundation upon which this entire project depends. Indeed, without the channel, the development cannot be constructed because essentially the entire project is located within the floodplain at the confluence of Calleguas and Conejo Creeks. It's hard to imagine a more inappropriate area for development and also a more appropriate area for farmland with that frequent flooding. Yet despite this importance, critical details regarding the bypass channel's construction remain unanswered. Indeed, the recirculated EIR, the same as the draft EIR, fails to precisely define exactly what the bypass channel is. The EIR provides nothing but uncertainty, stating that construction will, quote, be a flexible and or vegetative systems unless channel velocities and characteristics require rigid systems such as concrete slope paving, soil cement, or grouted stone. Such uncertainty is directly at odds with CEQA's core requirements that project descriptions be stable and finite. Moreover, the EIR provides no analysis of potential environmental impacts if it is channelization used instead of a natural vegetative state, an omission that further violates CEQA. Additionally, the EIR relies on this vegetative bypass channel and other flood control mechanisms as the primary mitigation for the extensive destruction of riparian areas and other native wildlife and plant habitat that would occur if this project is approved. By leaving open the possibility that the bypass channel will instead be channelized, the EIR in turn renders the proposed mitigation measures as overly speculative. In sum, the vague and imprecise definition of the bypass channel poisons the entire EIR, undermining critical conclusions reached with respect to impacts on riparian areas, special status animal and wildlife species and fish species, water quality, stormwater management, and other natural resources. I respectfully urge you, when and if this project comes before you, to not certify the EIR and to not approve the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Chris Loft. After Chris, Forrest, I believe it's Frields, Matt Lorimer, and then it'll be Marge Lorraine. Chris, you want to move that microphone real close to you, Chris? That'd be great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Oh, I can't see. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, commissioners, guests, and fellow citizens. In 1879, botanist J.F. James wrote this description: "The plains surrounding the hills and valleys are one mass of gorgeous, brilliant flowers as far as the eye can see. In March, they appear to be cloaked in red, in April in blue, while in May they resemble passes of pure gold." The pure gold he referred to was the California poppy, and the plains were the San Fernando Valley, once sounding like a paradise. My family moved from San Fernando Valley over 50 years ago to get away from what replaced the poppies: traffic, congestion, visual noise, and air pollutions. We wanted to live in a rural and more natural environment and in a place where I could fulfill my childhood dream and have a horse. That place was Camarillo, then still a paradise. It was just like the official city logo, not the new one for the 50 years, that depicts green as far as you can see, meeting bright blue skies. And like Senor Camarillo, I was able to ride my horse all over the county. But something started to happen to Camarillo little by little, year by year. It's like we, the citizens, fell into a Rip Van Winkle type of sleep, and when we awoke suddenly, found ourselves in an unrecognizable place with major traffic jams, massive industrial buildings, and strip malls everywhere. Saturday, August 18th, my daughter and son-in-law tried to leave Camarillo to attend their brother's wedding in Santa Barbara. They encountered extremely heavy traffic, barely moving on the northbound 101. What should have been a 45-minute trip took over 2.5 hours, and they missed this important family event. And there were no traffic accidents. It was just gridlock. And everyone in this room knows how bad the traffic is. I am preaching to the choir. The Springville development will be adding 21,000 average daily car trips to this traffic. And I saw apartments going up at the end of Daily Drive, eating away more farmland and adding even more traffic. The Conejo Creek development is estimated to add traffic by 45,000 daily car trips and take away nearly 900 acres of our precious farmland. I ask you, the City Council, members and planners, please listen to the people who vote for you and not the developers who are turning Camarillo into the San Fernando Valley little by little. We don't need more traffic. We need our farmland and rural way of life. We need to wake up and smell the poppies before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next, Forrest, I believe it's Freons. Is Forrest here?
He was, but he went outside.
Oh, he went outside. Okay. How about, let's see. Let's do, Matt, you want to come on up here and we'll get to Forrest? Is somebody going to get Forrest? The next is going to be Marge Lorraine if she wants to get ready too. Okay, Matt, there you go.
My name is Matt Lorimer. I'm here as an individual. I don't represent anybody. We've seen this movie before across this country and across California. The idea that you're going to continue to build up a city, you create smog, traffic, and crime. Let me remind you, earlier this year, violent crime was up 20% in the city of Camarillo. You know, you can't mitigate this. This is a bad project. It doesn't belong here. And the people have crowded your hallways, at homes, in the papers. I think they're pretty much disgusted with this whole project. Let me read you something on the EIR 42-20. The 648-acre conversion of such land to non-agricultural uses cannot be fully mitigated. The build-out of the proposed project represents approximately 55% of the total cumulative loss of an important, remember this word tonight, important farmland. Another thing I'd like to talk about, 4-15-6, methodology significance threshold. This study was done in 2011. Folks, we're in 2014. Let me remind you, the university said they're going to have a 14% increase. By the way, Village of the Park is building homes currently, and on top of that, the city of Oxnard has got development going on. So it's pretty much obvious this report is not a current report. So that's a big problem. Let's talk about Dennis Hargrave. He said we're fixing air quality. Really? We're going to add 7,500 cars to that development, 2,500 homes. If you have 2 people in the family, that's 5,000. If you have a children, let's cut it in half. Let's call 7,500 cars. Now, a lot of people tonight have to be concerned that this could come back over and over again. Tonight, I want to offer a solution. The people who own this property and the city of Camarillo and Channel Islands State University, we should buy this property and add an ag program to the university. And the reason why, we have ag, we have important land, that is the solution. This project should be denied, and we should move forward on purchasing this property with the California State University again and create an ag program. That is a long-lasting solution to the people of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, next is Marge Lorraine, and I believe after Marge it'll be a Kathy Van Slyke. If Kathy's here, if she wants to line up, and then I believe it's a Jim Franzen. Marge, you can.
Yes, my name is Marge Lorraine, and I live in Leisure Village, and we have 3,400 very active people who vote, and they're almost all of them. I haven't met one person that is in favor of this project. And our own Camarillo General Plan states that there has to be a demonstrated community benefit before agricultural land can be rezoned. So I don't know why you didn't throw those clowns out when they first came to you. They had nothing beneficial to do. This is not the case here. There is no community benefit. Here, the community will certainly suffer. This is a case of 5 families wanting to make lots of money by creating thousands of extra car trips